Hi, everybody. Welcome to the call today. And today we have an interesting guest. His name is Sean. He's the CEO of Revix. And today we are going to talk about, the Revix platform and what they've been building. Hi, Sean.
Hey, David. Thanks very much for having me. And yeah, what a journey it is being a founder into building a tech business. And yeah, I'm very grateful to being on the show and being able to hopefully, share a few stories.
All right. Thank you as well. Thank you for joining us and for just taking the time. Maybe we can start by introductions. Tell us who you are and how you got into the crypto.
I am a finance geek. I am 30 years old. I worked in a few different sort of investment banking jobs prior to starting Revix. I actually started my career at a hedge fund. I then started working for a family office based in the UK. I worked for a venture capital firm based in Cape Town. As you can hear, I've got a South African accent. But yeah, all my sort of prior jobs to founding Revix have been very finance focused. And it makes sense that sort of I found a fintech. But yeah, in a sort of super long story short, I'm Cape Town based and I've attended the University of Cape Town. And yeah, as I mentioned, like the finance guy did a finance degree. And now that I've got involved with Revix, I sort of started my crypto journey, probably around 2015 actually. And it was quite an interesting sort of start to finding the world of crypto. I was actually managing money for a bunch of models and actors. And one of the models wanted to move money from London to New York. And I was sort of not sure on how exactly to do this. The banks were taking a hell of a long time. She needed the money really quickly. And I came across this Bitcoin thing and a friend landed up telling me, hey, listen, this is the thing to do. And I remember making this first transaction. Cannot remember how many Bitcoins I actually landed up buying back in the day, but it was a significant number. And this transaction occurred and it didn't really hit me just how big of a deal this was. And that was sort of my first foray into the space. So, quite some time ago. And ever since it's been just fascinating. And this is one of those industries that you fall into and you just keep falling. You're kind of always humbled by, the new innovation in the space and just how much is going on.
Indeed. Actually, thank you for that backstory, Sean. Now, moving on, I think you guys have built a very robust platform. So currently, apart from obviously you're based in South Africa, which other markets do you operate in?
So we just started looking at Botswana. We are looking at Kenya. We have not launched in Kenya though, but we are looking there. And naturally within the sort of South African borders, we've got Lesotho and Swaziland. So those are sort of the primary markets we've been looking at. We are busy getting regulated in Estonia as well as Dubai, which give us access to the Middle Eastern markets, as well as or should I maybe reverse that, the European markets and then the Middle Eastern markets. So we're busy with all of that. The plan is definitely to get a greater presence in Africa, but we're just sort of taking it one country at a time at this point.
All right. I mean, just a bit on the markets you're operating in. How's the reception there? In Europe as well, in the Middle East and Africa. Maybe you can give a bit of comparison of the markets.
Yeah, of course. So in South Africa in particular, I mean, you've got a consumer base, which is actually quite similar to the rest of Africa, that are fearful of government currency, right? I mean, do you want to be in rands? Do you want to be in Pula? Do you want to be in, Bitcoin? Like those are sort of like similar questions, right? Sure, Bitcoin jumps around a lot relative to the rand or relative to Pula, but I mean, at the end of the day, the appeal of cryptocurrency actually comes from the sort of like currency hedge exposure. So you don't have exposure to your local currency, which is quite interesting. And I mean, it does bring in a sort of greater pool of investors rather than just speculators. People actually just want to own crypto because they want to store value. And then if you look at sort of the Middle East and Europe, it's a similar set of markets where you've got higher net worth individuals on average, people that have got access to traditional banking, they've got traditional brokerage accounts and all the rest. So a slightly more sophisticated investor as well, just, generally speaking on average, that wants to get exposure to, in our case, we offer these crypto bundles. So they want to sort of add crypto as an asset class within their portfolio, and they come along to do that. And in, so the African context, this is sometimes people's first investment, which is quite different, right? Because we just don't have the, sort of advanced nature that you would have otherwise. I mean, the Middle East is somewhere in the middle, but in Europe, you've got, quite an advanced financial system. And, South Africa is one of sort of the leaders in the African continent in terms of sort of financial banking and, or I guess investment banking, financial services, et cetera. But even then, like, there's still a lot of users that, this is their first online brokerage platform or their online share trading experience. So there are quite a few differences on that front.
You mentioned bundle. I'm sure it's a feature that you guys offer. Maybe you can tell us a bit about that as well.
Yeah, sure. So on our platform, we offer cryptocurrency bundles. So very similar to investing in, let's say, the S&P 500 or the FTSE 100, but for cryptocurrency. So you don't have to pick individual cryptocurrencies to invest in. I mean, you can do this on our platform. So you can go and buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, XRP, all these different cryptocurrencies. But really what we are offering is convenience. And for most people, the crypto space is so volatile, it moves so quickly, you don't just want to get exposure to it, right? You want to say, hey, listen, here's some money, go ahead, let me get exposure to the sector, and I don't want to worry about it. And that's where our bundles come in. We've got 3 bundles. We've got a top 10 bundle, which provides exposure to the top 10 largest cryptocurrencies. And then we've got 2 theme-based bundles. So just like in the stock market, you've got say the resources sector, or you've got the technology sector. Within the crypto space, you've now got these sectors that are emerging. So you've got a smart contract sector, and we've got a bundle that provides exposure to that. And then there's also the payment sector, which are sort of for the cryptocurrencies that are looking to become digital money and challenge dollars, rands, pounds, and all the rest. And we've got a bundle that provides exposure to that. Now, what makes our bundles really unique is that they automatically update every single month. So through this monthly rebalancing process, we keep customer holdings up to date with the volatile and quickly changing crypto market. So again, it's sort of this convenience factor. We've obviously got low fees on the platform. I don't think you can be a platform that charges sort of high fees or premium fees anymore. You do have to be competitive on the fee front. And then one of our big focuses naturally is on security. I mean, at the end of the day, we own the crypto space. Security is absolutely paramount. So that's sort of the 3 areas that we really focus on the most.
All right, great. That sounds like an interesting product, obviously. What other features do you have on Revix that maybe listeners might be interested in?
Yeah, so there's a lot of features that we'll be launching pretty soon. I think the most exciting of which is our mobile app. So we currently have about 33,000 users across the world. Most of those users are actually based in South Africa, though. And we've sort of accomplished what we have without a mobile app. And we've got a mobile app that's launching next month. Yeah, we're speaking in Feb now. So launching in March, which we're kind of excited about. And then after that, we've got a whole host of sort of other features that we'll be launching on the platform. One of which is currently live on the platform right now, which is still sort of in its evolution, is our rewards program. So you can sign up with Revix and you can do things which are good for you as well as good for us. Good for us as a platform. Obviously we want to grow, we want to incentivize activity on the platform and all the rest. So we actually give users rewards points for doing various things, and one of which would be to say, let's say, referring a friend. If you successfully refer a friend and they make an investment, we give you a significant amount of money for doing that, and your friend also gets a reward, but you're earning points, and these points are redeemable for Bitcoin. You could diversify your portfolio and you could earn points for doing that. You could invest for the longer term and you can earn points for doing that. You can fill out a questionnaire, learn more about security, do all these really neat things. And we sort of nudge you to become a better long-term investor. As I said, sort of diversifying your portfolio, investing for the long term, we can reward you for doing that. So this reward system that we've had has been a massive success. People love it because you start out in a blue tier, you move to silver, you move to gold, you move, all these up through all these tiers. And as you move through the tiers, you get lower transaction fees, you get a dedicated account manager, you get Revix merchandise, you get all these cool things. And it's built quite an amazing community internally within Revix.
Great. I think I read somewhere where you're actually the first South African investment platform that offers behavioral loyalty and rewards program that can be redeemed for Bitcoin. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah. So the way that the rewards program works, I'll sort of just come back to that in a moment, is that you earn points for doing these different things. So you earn points for investing over the long term or inviting friends. And then those points can be redeemed for Bitcoin. So you can, every single time you get 150 points on the platform, you can redeem them for Bitcoin. And the points differ between currency to currency, but you're getting roughly 2 Rand. I mean, that's South African Rand, and apologies to any international sort of listeners and all the rest, but 2 Rand for every single point. So you're 300 Rand for, the 150 points that you get. And that's the way that we sort of structured it. So that gamification, we're calling it sort of responsible gamification. because we want to encourage responsible investing. We are the polar opposite of one of these platforms wanting you to trade the entire time. I mean, you can go ahead and do that on our platform, but really what we want to reward you for doing is being a smart long-term investor.
Now, Sean, now moving slightly away from what you're offering, I know that you also recently gained recognition by being the only South African fintech to be accepted into the prestigious 6-month Berkeley blockchain accelerator. That sounds exciting. Maybe tell us a bit about that, how that came about as well.
Yeah, sure. So we applied to the Berkeley blockchain accelerator. Feels like a lifetime ago, but about 18 months ago. And they've got a pretty rigorous application process. And we were sort of out of place because you've got all these layer 1 protocols that are existing there. So you've got, the likes of, I guess, Polygon's early team. So like protocols, you're talking like the same guys and girls that have made Ethereum, that have made Matic, like incredible guys and incredible companies. And I guess we sort of felt out of place. We were like, well, we are building an investment platform. We're not building a blockchain-based solution or this like decentralized Web 3.5. And I guess, the team at Berkeley really liked what we're doing, because what we're looking at doing ultimately is to enable everyday people to become their own financial managers, or to like manage their own money effectively. And that's what crypto is really about. Like crypto at its very core is actually saying, hey, listen, you don't need necessarily a bank to process a transaction or to store your money. You can actually do that yourself. And that was really, I think, what they saw. They also loved our tech. I mean, you naturally, when you come to the Revix site, you just see the top of the iceberg, right? You see the marketing site that we have, you see the dashboard that we have. There's so much more that goes on underneath the hood, right? The security protocols, everything else. I mean, we've got a JSE listed company that's invested in us. We've got some other really notable shareholders. And because of that, I mean, we've had to take a fundamental based approach, or first principles based approach to building Revix. We've had to focus on security. We've had to focus on things that I think a lot of other companies sort of overlooked: data privacy, GDPR, AMLD5. These are all things that we had to sort of foundationally get right. That's I think what the Berkeley team saw. Being part of that accelerator was phenomenal. We got exposure to some of the top crypto platforms and, as I said, layer 1, like early stage protocols, and the teams working on blockchains and actually sort of the innovators within the blockchain space. Only recently did you sort of have the opportunity to go and do a degree that's focused on blockchain. So these are the pioneers, and ultimately the people that actually were going now to the likes of Berkeley, to Harvard, to all the rest, to lecture about blockchains and to lecture about what Web 3.0 is and all the rest. So it was just an exciting experience. I mean, absolutely, fascinating 6 months working with the teams there. Some great connections. Definitely something from my perspective, at least, will sort of be etched in my memory forever.
Wow. Okay, that sounds quite exciting, actually. Yeah. And also, I mean, congratulations on that. Also, maybe also of interest is the fact that you also raised about $4 million last year. That was obviously big news. Maybe you can also tell us about that. How did that come about?
Yeah, so as a fintech business, you are gobbling away money, right? I mean, you just never stop spending. You hire smart people. Smart people cost money. Marketing costs lots of money. So at the end of the day, we need to be in a position, where we've got a very strong balance sheet, where we can lean into growth, where we can, hire the best staff out there. And that's exactly what we did, right? So we had to go out that's exactly what we've done, should I say. So we went out, we raised about $4.2 million in total. That was a seed round. So we've got our Series A that'll be coming up pretty soon. We're actually quite close to closing another fundraise, a bit more than the last raise. And the goal really with us is that we're wanting to be around for the next 150 years plus, right? Like forever, ultimately, like most companies. But I mean, our goal here is longevity. We're in the game of building long-term customer trust. I call this long-term greedy, right? If you get a customer that really likes what you're doing today and they're with you in 5 years' time, you've won as a company. And that's really what we're trying to do. So yeah, that was the raise. I mean, raising money is a challenge for any business. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. I mean, I am grateful that, sort of crypto had the year that it had last year. We've been able to grow the way we've grown. I mean, just to give you a bit of sort of data, we grew about 1,200% last year. So our valuation, significantly increased as a startup. We're now definitely out of the startup phase, more into the scale up, sort of international expansion phase. It's funny because you look at sort of the likes of Revolut based in the UK, they still call themselves a startup. I mean, you're looking at a company with north of $1 billion valuation that's been around now for a substantial amount of time. So I don't know what point you actually stop doing that. But no, it's been a phenomenal experience. Certainly, the greatest experience of my life. I've thoroughly enjoyed building this business.
All right, great. Yeah, I mean, Sean, also, you've obviously gained a lot of experience from that, running Revix, raising. I'm sure there are quite a lot of lessons there that you can offer, which brings me to my next question. What advice would you give, say, to entrepreneurs in the blockchain crypto space on the African continent that are also trying to build, solutions in the space? What are those tips and tricks that you've seen work for you, for Revix, to get you to the point where you are?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different tips and I suppose tricks that I could, bring up. I think the most important of which is we must look internationally from an investor base, at least, not to just, I think, get the best valuation. That's the one approach. But I mean, you also have a lot of international investors that are so interested in the African continent and what's going on here. And they just don't have a way to sort of access the African market. And so, finding an international partner that's able to introduce you to different investment players, advise on the best way to sort of structure companies and do all the rest, do it. I mean, without a doubt, I think Africa is at the moment the growth story of the world, right? I mean, you've had China, you've had India, and I think now all of that's shifting very much towards the African continent. And for the first time, and I mean, as I mentioned, I worked in BC for a while, venture capital, before, getting involved with Revix. And there wasn't that sort of level of interest in the African continent that I'm seeing today. I mean, right now at this point, it's the highest, in my opinion, that it's ever been. I'm sure the numbers are pointing to exactly the same sort of thing. So, take advantage of that. I mean, this is just the start, I think, of something that's going to be a lot more exciting going forward. There's no other sort of shortcuts when it comes to raising financing. I mean, I'm going to say it is a lot more difficult raising money in Africa than it is raising money elsewhere. Hence why I'm saying look internationally for investors. And then from a structuring standpoint, this is, sort of one of these ethical areas. It's, if you structure a company that has its IP domiciled within an African country, I mean, that makes it more challenging for international investors because they don't understand the local laws, right? I mean, you've got Algeria, you've got Nigeria, where you've got Zimbabwe, you've got all these different countries where there's been pretty big shifts within regulatory frameworks and all the rest. That scares international investors. So it can make sense to look at structuring something offshore while having an onshore entity. But again, it's sort of managing that correctly, which is very, very important. So yeah, there's so much I can get into, but I think number one, look international. There's a lot of interest at the moment.
All right. Any specific advice, for example, on how to grow your business across the continent? For example, how do you expand? I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with that. How do you, first of all, build in one country and then expand? How should that look like?
Well, I think this is the challenge that all businesses face, right? You can go and you can put yourself as an entrepreneur or as a founder or as a marketing lead within a country, but you still don't get that culture because, every country in Africa, just like every country in Europe, is very different, right? You've got different tastes, you've got different interests, you've got different ways of communicating. I think you need to build an on-the-ground team, and that's sort of our approach. So, as we look to expand more throughout Africa, it is a case of actually hiring marketing leads on the ground within the different countries. And I mean, that's, unfortunately, that isn't a sort of shortcut or anything like that. That's just the approach we're taking. I personally naturally need to see the market. I love that. I think, we live on the most beautiful continent on earth. So that is important, but ultimately, I don't think that really results in the success of sort of having feet on the ground and really competent people on the ground that can help you grow.
All right, great. So when can we expect you in Kenya, Sean?
Hopefully soon. That's like the country that is the number one on my list to travel to. I've never been to Kenya before. I mean, yeah, definitely up there. I also know that sort of the fintech ecosystem there is blowing up. It's been blowing up for a while. I think it's only going to grow. It's also really nicely sort of located from South Africa in terms of, we're expanding into the Middle East, we're expanding into Europe. So I think I'm just going to force it to be one of those stopover points for me. So I'll make a little commitment here before the end of the year. I'll be over there.
All right. Thank you. We actually look forward to having you. And again, thanks, Sean, for just taking the time to talk to us.
Brilliant, David. Thanks very much for having me. Have a good rest of the day.
All right. Thank you.